सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला।
सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for the nation's sharpest opinion. And ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want to address all of you, of course, but I want to address the people in the country called the United States of America. And I want to ask them, what do they really think of Donald Trump? Here is a man, Americans, who's your president, who today compared his so-called bombing, the bombing that wasn't, of Iran's nuclear facilities with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He compared it to the atomic bombs being put on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And he said, what I did is like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. My question to Americans is, aren't you ashamed of this man who talks like this? Hiroshima and Nagasaki, really, Americans? Really? Is that something you're proud of? Forget Donald Trump, I'm asking Americans, are you proud of what you did, what your country did in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Would Germans be proud of what Adolf Hitler did with the Holocaust? What if a German leader was to come and say today that what I did is like the Holocaust, I did something like Adolf Hitler? Similarly, you have a leader, you have a president who comes and says, I did the kind of thing that we did during the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. During Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 90% of Nagasaki's surface was destroyed, 70% of Hiroshima. 200,000 people ultimately died from the two bombings. The exact figure will never be known. And Americans, if you want to know, there was no trace of the bodies. In many cases, there was no trace of the bodies. The bodies were not found. Thousands of degrees of heat generated from the nuclear bombs that America put on the Japanese because they could not win the war, otherwise vaporized human bodies. Human bodies were vaporized. And today, this man, your president, comes and says, I did something like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This man, Americans, your president, has no sense of history. He has no sense of collective guilt. And I will not be surprised if going this way, he cites something that Adolf Hitler did one day as an example. That is his logic, that is his thinking, that is his attention deficit disorder. The man has a problem. He has a very weak sense of history. He may know about New York real estate. He knows very little beyond that. And Americans, how can you allow him to get away with this? This is the second time that his own intelligence community has contradicted him. You would remember, Americans, right after the strike on the 22nd of June, Trump said that the nuclear sites have been totally and completely obliterated. I'll play that soundbite. Let's play that.
Had we not succeeded with that hit ended the war. That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war. If we didn't take that out, they'd be fighting right now.
Fact is, ladies and gentlemen, there's been a 5-page report that has allegedly been leaked from the Pentagon's main intelligence arm, which suggests that Iran's nuclear program will be set back only by a few months. That is, a few weeks, not by years, as Trump is suggesting. And now Trump is investigating who put out that leak. But the fact is, forget who put out that leak. Did you lie, Donald Trump? Did you lie? You're calling your own head of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, a liar. You're accusing your own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, of saying the wrong thing when she said that there is no credible intelligence as far as Khomeini producing or reinforcing the nuclear program is concerned. If you have the guts, and if you think your director of national intelligence is contradicting you and lying and working against your interest and America's sovereign interest, then sack her. But you can't. You're so weak. You can't sack her either. We cannot have this situation, ladies and gentlemen, where there's a repeat of what Bush said, ignoring all credible intelligence on WMDs which were never found in Saddam's Iraq. Similarly, Donald Trump has openly said that Tulsi Gabbard and by extension his own intelligence community is lying. They don't know anything. Let's play that soundbite. So I put the proof tonight.
And the IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khomeini has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. We continue to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
In response to that, Trump said this.
We not succeeded with that hit. That hit ended the war. That hit
Not this one.
ended the war.
What intelligence do you have that Iran is building a nuclear weapon? Your intelligence community has said they have no evidence that they are at this point.
Well, then my intelligence community is wrong. Who in the intelligence community said that?
Your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
She's wrong.
If she's wrong and she's contradicting you on such a major thing, what action did you take against her? You can't, because she stated facts and she's holding her own. She has never said she's wrong herself. Ladies and gentlemen, fact is that all that Trump is left with today is face-saving. Trump went deep into Iran, claimed to have struck Iran's nuclear infrastructure with the never-used-before American bunker-busting bombs. He said he targeted Natanz, Isfahan, and even Fordo, which he did because it was beyond the reach of the Israeli forces. But the fact is, what is the result? Is the nuclear program over? No. Is there a commitment from Iran? No. Is there a taking back of the Iranian threat to choke the Straits of Hormuz? No. Did Iran not strike at American military bases in Qatar, in the Middle East? Yes. What is the end result? Has the nuclear threat been annihilated? Answer is a resounding no. Now you can take sides and say, why should I be saying this? Well, I should be saying this because this is not America's problem. This is a global situation. And with so many falsehoods and hypocrisies and contradictions, it is not us, it is the American people who need to ask their president what exactly he is up to and whether he knows what he's up to every morning. Let's debate.
He claimed total obliteration of Iran's nuclear sites.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
His media is now questioning his claims and is getting on his nerves.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum.
It all started with a leaked intelligence report from Pentagon's main intelligence arm, the Defense Intelligence Agency. A 5-page preliminary report assessing the U.S. strikes on Operation Midnight Hammer suggests that U.S. strikes may have only sealed off the two entrances of the nuclear facility in Fordo. The report further contends the underground building may not have collapsed, and Trump's obliteration claim may be exaggerated, with Iran recovering as soon as within the next 6 months. As per the report, Iran had moved its stockpiles of enriched uranium with only a little material destroyed, arguing that Iran still retains control of almost all nuclear material and can still develop nuclear weapons relatively quickly. The Trump administration has not denied the leak. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt even confirmed the top-secret leak by a low-level loser in the intelligence community. Even the IAEA suggested that Tehran could rebuild the infrastructure and that it is not impossible.
This hourglass approach is something I never liked. You remember the 45 minutes, the 1 hour, the 3 hours, the 3 months. It's not my cup of tea, so to say. And it's in the eye of the beholder, because when you look at the Wiederaufbau, the reconstruction of the infrastructure is not impossible. First, there has been some that survived the attacks, and then this is work that Iran knows how to do. It would take some time.
President Trump remains defiant.
Mr. President, what's your reaction to the intelligence reports saying that the Iranian nuclear sites were only partially devastated, not entirely?
Yeah, well, they said it was actually, the report said it could have been they don't know. I mean, they did a report. I could have Pete talk to it because his department did the report. It was, I believe it was total obliteration. I believe they didn't have a chance to get anything out because we acted fast. If it would have taken 2 weeks maybe, but it's very hard to remove that kind of material. Very hard and very dangerous for them to remove it. Plus, they knew we were coming. And if they know we're coming, they're not going to be down there.
Not just that, Trump even made claims that it was only because of his strikes that there was a ceasefire, making an insensitive comparison in the process.
Had we not succeeded with that hit ended the war. That hit ended the war. I don't want to use an example of Hiroshima. I don't want to use an example of Nagasaki. But that was essentially the same thing. That ended that war. This ended that with the war. If we didn't take that out, they'd be fighting right now.
This is not the first time Trump has been contradicted by his intel agencies on the Iran nuclear weapons. In March this year, Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, too had said in the US Senate that there was no evidence to suggest Iran was building a nuclear bomb.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. We continue to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
The big question remains: can Donald Trump disown his own intelligence agencies? Were the US strike the cause of the ceasefire? Is Iran's nuclear dream destroyed forever?
Panel, we have got Dr. Muqtadar Khan, Professor of International Relations at the University of Delaware in the United States. Einar Thangen, political and economic expert from Beijing. We have Democratic leader Ajay Jain Bhutoria from California. He's been former advisor to President Biden. We have Benny Benjamin. He's been with the Israeli Defense Forces from Ramla in Israel. We have STA Alexander, grassroots strategist of the GOP. He's Republican. My first question is to Pastor Mark Burns, who is apparently spiritual advisor to President Trump, totally pro-Trump. This is going out very badly, Pastor Mark Burns, because not just because of this report, Because first Trump said, look at how he changes his line, just watch. First Trump said, I'm going to carry out regime change. Then he says, I'm not going to carry out regime change. First he says, I'm going to remove Khomeini. Then he says, I don't need to remove Khomeini. Then he says, I did a knockout punch. Done, kaput. B-2 bombers delivered a knockout punch. Everything is finished. And now he says, I don't know, ask Pete. In other words, Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary. That's the report that Pete put out. Ask Pete. Then he said, first he said, I've completely destroyed the weapons program. Now he says, I believe it was obliterated. See the change of words. He's not sure. See the change of words. So end result is, sorry to tell you the truth, Pastor, end result is America got nothing. Did you get an agreement from the Iranians? Did you get a surrender from the Iranians? You did not. You did not. Did you get them to stick by the IAEA and their rules? No. In fact, Iranians became more defiant. They walked out. Did you get them to surrender to you? No. They bombed your military base in Qatar. They bombed you. They didn't surrender to you. Right? And all you're doing is, you can't laugh your way out of this today. You can't laugh your way out. These are very serious situations, and very serious situations indeed. Because if this was a bombing that wasn't, if this did not achieve any of the goals, it's wrong of you to make those claims. Pastor Mark Burns, I hand it over to you, and then Einar will respond.
Okay, great. So first of all, the President of the United States of America has a staff, team, intelligence, and every one of them are stating the fact. 30,000 bombs, 30,000 bunker cluster bombs that are massively have shown via satellite. Right? Anything that's under that mountain has been obliterated, has been destroyed. The satellite pictures in which, as I said before, we control the sky. So the satellites are showing clearly that everything that was in that Fordo bunker has been destroyed. 30,000 pounds, 30,000 tons, of massive bombs hitting one particular target. And I could say what Secretary Rubio said. This is the fact. Whether you want to try to determine how much has been destroyed, even though the Iranian foreign minister spokesperson themselves said that our own nuclear sites has been severely damaged. This comes from Iranian governments. It's funny that you're not even reporting that. But the reality of it is from their own mouths, they are stating from their own spokesperson that their sites has been severely damaged. Now, you don't know President Trump like I do. You apparently have never read The Art of the Deal, the book that he read. The president is a deal maker. The president wants to get deals done. He stated he will remove.
I thought you wanted to destroy the Iranians, and now you say you want to make a deal with them. Interesting.
Well, no, we want to keep Americans and the region safe. Listen, Iran, fact, has been the sponsor of terror in that region. You cannot deny that. If you can, then, sir, I don't know what rock you've been under.
But you did not obliterate the Iranian nuclear bases.
Most people, sir, let me finish my statement. Most people have identified Iran, who's back Hezbollah, who's back Hamas, who's back the terrorist attacks that are happening in Yemen with the Houthis. They have been sponsoring terror, attacking over thousands of Americans have been killed.
You're preaching to the converted. I'm also anti-Iran, but the point is not that. I am also anti-Iran, but I am saying that you made a claim, your president made a claim which turned out to be false.
The satellites made a claim. The satellites made a claim. The satellite images made a claim. The satellite,
you heard them a bit, but you didn't destroy them.
Made a claim. Now, listen, I can say this: the uranium program that was that existed last week is not the same one that exists today. That's the fact that they cannot today, regardless of what they may try to claim. The satellite. Have you seen the satellite images? Have you seen the destruction? Have you seen the massive holes and the fires that existed? Tell me, Have your viewers
You're asking
seen
me
it?
a question,
So
then you
you're
don't answer
speaking
it
about-
yourself.
You're speaking.
If you're asking me a question, I'm fully capable of answering
Yes,
it.
I have seen them, and I'm telling you the reality.
You
of
are
it
not a
is
satellite imagery expert.
President
You are a
Trump-
spiritual person.
President Trump, but listen, don't forget I ran for Congress. I am very political. I'm not.
No, you
just
may be
a spiritual-
political, but
Matter
you're not
of
a
fact,
defense expert.
Most preachers of the Old Testament were also political and spiritual.
I'm not here into it. I'm not
the Word of
questioning your
God.
spiritual prowess.
The reality of it is, the satellite images makes it very clear that those
first of all,
bunkers
Pastor,
have been,
Pastor,
if you you're not letting me finish my statement, and your microphone is louder than mine, and so that's how
No,
you
your
play the game.
microphone
This
is
why
louder than
I don't
mine.
want to-
But
this
my
is why I
voice
don't
can be
come to
louder
the
than yours.
shows. Because if you're going
I'm
to
not-
ask me a question, you're going to let me finish the statement without you cut me off.
I will
don't
let
cut
you
off,
finish.
nor will I cut off any other guests. You may disagree, but you don't cut me off. Let me finish my statement. You asked me a question, so let me make a statement without you talking. All right. So the reality, we learned that in elementary school. I'm assuming you learned that too. Basic manners. And so listen, the satellite images have shown significant damage. Significant and
complete obliteration are two different things.
It has been completely obliterated. There's a massive hole in the side of the mountain, sir. You're taking the word of what? You haven't even seen the images. You haven't seen the images, but
but you saw what the New York Times reported. You know what CNN reported.
Somebody said.
Pentagon analysts have said that.
Oh, you're talking about the CNN and the fake news, New York Times? Come on, get out of here.
I'm talking about the Pentagon. You're calling Pentagon liars
the whole entire time. And so the reality
Pentagon
is,
has been quoted. Pentagon has been quoted. You're anti-Pentagon. You're anti-Tulsi Gabbard.
Information that the president has received, this has been obliterated. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made it very clear. Secretary Pete Hegseth made it very clear. These are massive holes on the side of the mountain. Even the Iranian foreign minister spokesperson declared our Iranian nuclear sites have
may I get in,
severely destroyed.
Do I have your permission to get our guests, because there are guests waiting from Delaware, from Beijing, from California, from Ramla in Israel, from Atlanta. I would be very rude. So I have a lot of manners, by the way. My point is, I'll say this to Einar before I go to Einar. You see, please don't mind it. Your leader has a habit of exaggeration. He said he'll end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Putin now says that he has gone. He said that Putin has gone crazy. He wanted Canada to be the 51st state. He wanted to take on Greenland. He wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Not possible to do these things.
We did rename the Gulf of Mexico.
He may, but nobody. Anyway, my point is, I want to get Einar on this, on whether you think Trump is exaggerating not his strategic objectives, but his strategic achievements over the last 12 days. Einar.
Absolutely. I'm still trying to figure out exactly why the pastor is speaking for the powerful. Generally, pastors speak for those who don't have power, because the powerful can speak for themselves. But in the case of Donald Trump, he has a habit of always claiming things, claiming victory, even during defeat. Here's a man who, for 18 years, at every stump speech, talked about how he needed to reform healthcare. And yet, when asked just before they elect this, and for those years he was president, when asked just before this last election what his plan was, he said he had a framework of concepts. And this was not a hardball question. This was a softball question lobbed at him from right-wing media. He didn't have an answer. And it's not surprising that he's doing it. He's a showman. He likes the art of the deal, but it's very momentary. It's all transactional. He believes that he can kind of befuddle people, baffle them, as I say, and convince them that black is white, white is black. And he's doing that here. I mean, we have to go back to his initial assessment. He was asked by those reporters, what evidence do you have that Iran has this nuke? He says, they're lying. He says, well, your intelligence service say that. Well, they're lying. Well, the fact is the IAEA, which is the closest entity that has been observing the Iranians for many, many years, who the Iranians complain about on a regular basis, so it's not a friendly relationship. They themselves said there's no nuclear bomb. So he went in anyways. He broke arguably, and I'm a lawyer, he broke the War Powers Act of 1973, which said he needs to confer with Congress. He conferred with Congress after the planes had been sent. And his Hegseth confirmed that. He broke international law because there was no existential threat, imminent threat, all right, that he could show. Did he bother at any of the times to say what his evidence was, A, for the fact that the Iranians had a nuclear weapon in the offing, or afterwards, when he said it was completely decimated? And then, you know, this idea that he would bring up Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and you know, be smirking about it, says, oh, I don't want to bring it up, but I'm going to mention it anyways, is incredible. I mean, I'm just happy the Japanese prime minister decided not to go to the NATO meeting and didn't have to be there to be questioned by the press as to what he thought Donald Trump meant by that statement. 200,000 people, as you said earlier in your report, died. This is not something to be celebrated. And quite frankly, it hasn't worked. I know the pastor wants to say that this is all wonderful and Donald Trump is great and I'm his spiritual advisor and I'm political. Well, you're proving to be more political than a pastor. Fact is, Donald Trump went from certainty about what had happened to now claiming it probably happened. He has a report that was done by a Pentagon. The Pentagon isn't in the habit of lying to itself. They collect this reports and information because they honestly believe that you need this information to craft the tactics and strategies necessary to keep America safe. So when they put these reports out there and they're leaked, I can guarantee you these were not lies. White House has not said they're lies. Just said they're incomplete or this is some sort of attack on Donald Trump. When anything goes wrong, the one certainty you can have is that everyone around Donald Trump will declare that this is an attack on him. It's not an attack on the truth. But the truth is the only victim here today.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. Most importantly, I feel bad for Israel tonight, and I'll tell you why, Benny and Mr. Alexander, because he's misleading Israel. You see, the consequence of his falsehood will not be felt by Americans so much as by the Israelis, who were fighting well with the Iranians, and they were fighting hard till Trump came in, and Trump then decided to call the shots, Mr. Benjamin. The problem with Trump coming in, he wants to call the shots. You see, why do you think a proud, large country like India, with third largest military, we don't let Trump in? Because we handle our stuff ourselves. We have a problem with China, we'll fight them ourselves. We hit Pakistan, we won't hit them when we feel like. We don't let these, Americans come in. The problem is that he has left Israel to handle the rest of the problem. He wants a political victory, Mr. Benjamin, but he hasn't solved the problem. And now the American media, the American intelligence community is reminding him that he has not solved the problem. Now the problem persists. You are under the feeling, sitting in Israel, Mr. Benjamin, that the problem has been solved. But it's not been solved. The nuclear threat persists. The Iranian foreign minister said they've been hurt a little, but the problem hasn't gone. So the threat that you wanted to obliterate has not been obliterated. Is that not a matter of concern for you, Mr. Benjamin?
Good evening, everybody from Israel. I'm not a political person, but what I understand when I'm sitting in my house and I'm looking at the TVs, some people say it is not done. Some people, they say it is done. And our intelligence said that it is done quite good. And with all this, I'm not bothered that it is not done or done. I'm only bothered of one thing, the negotiation now. What will be the results of the negotiation?
There is no negotiation. Mr. Benjamin, sorry to interrupt you. You do realize now, I hope,
this is horrible.
That there is no negotiation. Iran has not come to the negotiating table, Mr. Benjamin.
That's the only way Trump decided to stop the war. This is to bring them on the negotiation table. Okay. But I can understand one thing, that, Trump bought the Iranians, or maybe he will bring Iranians to the negotiating table. But today morning, President of Turkey said we must destroy Israel. So, I mean...
So then there is no negotiation. In that case, you do realize there is no negotiation. Israel is still going to face the same level of threat. Trump seems to have used the situation for his domestic political advantage and turned it around in a way that suits him. But it doesn't help you. You're the one who's going to continue to face the threat.
I was not negotiating with President Trump, and not even, I don't know what my Prime Minister has decided, if it is yes or no. I really don't know what is happening. We are only seeing the TV, and that's what I can tell you.
That's the point.
I know there are a lot of questions to our Prime Minister.
Mr. Benjamin.
And there are a lot of questions
Mr. Benjamin, let me tell you, I don't know what to make of Trump, because what Trump is saying, and Pastor, don't get worked up, because I'm showing you the truth, I'm showing you the light, and let me tell you, in that dark sky above, there is a spot of light, and that light is coming from me, and I'm showing you the light. Move towards the light. Don't mislead people. You're a pastor. You should never bring people towards falsehood. Remember the great preachers. Remember the people who spoke the truth. Remember Martin Luther King. Remember people who spoke truth to power. Remember the people. Do not become a voice of Trump. You can be a voice of God, but you can be a voice for God, but you can't be a voice for Trump.
You disrespect anybody that disagrees with you, and that's not.
No, I'm not disrespecting you, but I'm asking you something.
You didn't let the Israeli finish his statement. You let the Democrat who insults President Trump and the Democrat who doesn't know anything about a pastor, who knows nothing about.
Einar Tangen doesn't know you personally. That's not my problem. Everyone else.
My role is, but you let that.
What is your problem with Einar? Einar responded to your long speech.
Cut him off. You allowed him to speak peacefully without cutting him off. You didn't do it to the Israelis. You didn't do it to me. And that's disrespectful. That's the point that I'm making.
Pastor, don't try to provoke Benny. He's a friend of mine.
News. You don't create the news. And that's the story. This is becoming about you and your disrespect to your guests that you disagree with.
Why should I disrespect
you? Be unbiased and respect.
I have not shown the slightest disrespect.
It's about him. You are exactly like Donald Trump. You have been muttering and going on. You were even muttering during the Israelis' chat.
Oh, we get
and now you have the temerity. Is it possible for you? You ask for some civility. You ask for some civility when you're talking, but you're unable to do it yourself.
And the fact of the matter is, I was not given the same respect. Right,
Pastor,
you was able to communicate with nobody interrupting you. That's the point.
Point is. May I place on record, Pastor, that through your entire first answer, which was very long, I did not see Einar or me interrupt you even once. So that's not correct.
And allow somebody to
he's just trying to take up time.
I want to make a small point, and I want to get in Dr. Muqtadar Khan, because I'm concerned for Israel. The Israelis know if there's someone concerned for them, who loves them, that is me. And I'm as concerned about Israel a week back as I will today, because I don't know, Dr. Muqtadar Khan, what Trump says is this. He says, the Iranians called me, and the Iranians told me, listen, we are going to send a missile to your military base. Would 1 o'clock be all right? And Trump apparently told the Iranians, please come and throw a missile at my military base. This is an unbelievable story. This is exactly what he's saying. He says the Iranians told him they will hit an American military base that has thousands of American soldiers, and Trump claims that he allowed it. Can you imagine any country's leader, when given advance warning that an enemy country is going to hurt a missile at you, with all your technology, you couldn't stop them? What kind of a story is this? I can't believe it. Nobody believes it. Alexander doesn't believe it, but I want to hear Dr. Muqtadar Khan. Do you think the Iranians would have called Trump and given them advance notice, as he claims?
Well, the story from here, thanks for having me, Arnab, is that the Iranians wanted to at least fulfill their threat that if America attacked them, they would hit American bases. But they wanted to also get back to the negotiations table and not provoke a long war or give Donald Trump the excuse to start a long war with Iran. So they basically hit the bases but alerted the Qataris, and the Qataris claimed that they blocked all the missiles. So basically, I think the Iranians threw some junk at a base which was evacuated before that. But I think Donald Trump has bigger problems. He took the best possible shot that the U.S. could have taken against Iran, and that failed. It's not only that the Pentagon has leaked the intelligence report on the fact that the damage that they have caused will be repaired in a few months, not even a few years. Even the Israelis are being, out of respect to Donald Trump, they are saying, oh, it might take a couple of years. But off the record, the Israelis are also saying that their intelligence also says that that Iran will be able to restore the capacity to enrich uranium within a few months. But there is additional problem of where the 400 kilos of 60% pure uranium is. And Arnab, that is so dense that you can actually put those 400 kilos in a small bag of this size, which Iran can hide anywhere. And then Trump has this catch-22 situation. If he believes that they have destroyed Iran's capacity to threaten Israel with nuclear weapons or ended its nuclear program, then now there's no need for the Abrahamic Accords, and he needs to go back and take down the sanctions on Iran. We don't need those sanctions, and so we have kumbaya between the US and Iran. But if Iran does not return to inspections by IAEA and continues with the threat to withdraw from NPT, because the spectacle was terrible, 2 nuclear powers, one legally and one illegal possessor of nuclear power, was attacking a country which is a member of NPT and heavily inspected for decades with no nuclear program, according to the US intelligence itself. In fact, South Korea refused to go to the NATO summit because they were offended and upset by Donald Trump's attack on Iran, which violates international law. So President Trump now has huge problems. If he claims it is successful, then people will accept him to move forward and end this long attrition with Iran. But if they have failed, then he'll have to acknowledge that we took our best possible shot and we failed, and which will indirectly give Iran a major victory over both the US and Israel. So he's caught up in a catch-22 situation. He's in a bad created by his own pronouncements, this desire to go very quickly, early, and claim success, and then back off. And his approval ratings are now in the -12. As of today, there are only 41 people who approve and about 54% who disapprove him on all issues. Are you saying a lot of people in America have switched away? So he's desperate for wins. And he's desperately looking for wins. He has failed with regards to Russia and Ukraine, failed to enforce ceasefire in Gaza. I don't know what is happening. I was thinking of buying an apartment in Greenland once it became part of the US, but nothing has happened on that. So he's looking desperately for wins, and there is this sideshow going on about whether he will be able to win a Nobel Prize or not, and that's where the Pakistanis are helping him out. But I think that Donald Trump has failed in this mission, and now it's all going to be to cover up, and that actually creates a security situation which does not serve U.S. national interests, but may give Iran both a diplomatic as well as a psychological win if eventually the world recognizes the fact that the U.S. has not really damaged much of Iranian nuclear facilities.
Dr. Khan is not a voice from India. He's not a voice from China. He's a voice from Delaware. So I'm just putting this right. This is American.
I live 10 miles from Joe Biden's house.
Right, and you are an American citizen, I presume.
Yes, I am.
You're American citizen, because the problem is all these pro-Trump voices. The moment they hear someone, you're anti-American. No, these are voices from America. Now we are concerned for Israel. I would like to bring in Democratic leader Ajay Jain Bhutoria along with STA Alexander. You see, Mr. Alexander. White House has not denied the report of CNN. This is the most concerning thing. CNN says that there is damage, but it's not been obliterated. The nuclear threat still exists. White House says the assessment is flat out wrong, was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous, low-level loser in the intelligence community. This, in simple English, means that the assessment was made that there has not been significant damage, and the assessment was leaked to CNN. They have not said that the report of CNN, the report that was leaked, is factually incorrect. Does that not concern you? You may be a Republican supporter, but does that not concern you, Mr. Alexander?
Yes, it does concerns me. It definitely is a concern. You know what the concern is? The United States federal agencies, including the Intelligence Department, the CIA, the FBI, are all filled with radical left, anti-American officials. That is what we saw in last 4 years of Biden administration. I know some of the radical left, like Einar. I need to respond to Einar.
Einar.
What do you know about Pastor Mark Burns? Go and do a research on Mark Burns. Mark Burns is a board member in the faith department of President Trump's administration. So don't say a pastor cannot be political. Yes, a pastor can be political. Politics is not just for some of the radical lefts, and politics is not just for Democrats and the Democrat pastors, okay? We know there are pastors who are radical left, who are Democrats, and there is no problem with that.
But this debate is not about Pastor Mark Burns. Nobody's been disrespectful to Pastor Mark Burns. They are disagreeing with Pastor Mark Burns does not mean disrespect.
If one of your guests is going to attack Mark Burns, I will defend Mark Burns because he is a voice for Trump administration and he is a voice for the conservatives of the United States of America. And I will.
That is an internal issue between you and Pastor Mark Burns. That's not my issue.
Doesn't matter.
What do you want me to do? I can't disagree with Mark Burns because he's close. He holds an important position in the Trump administration.
I'm not talking to you. I'm just telling Einar. Einar said that Mark Burns cannot.
My God, this is a war that's broken out with Einar.
Why not? Why can't he be?
But we are discussing what happened with Iran. Why are you making it Einar versus Mark Burns?
I am coming to that.
You're trying to avoid the issue about the Iran situation.
No, I'm not. I'm coming to
that.
Yeah,
you're trying to give covering fire to Mark Burns and avoid my question about whether about the New York Times report.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. You asked me, did it bother me? Is it a concern for me that the intelligence report is leaked? Yes, it is a big concern. Not just in the intelligence department. FBI
but the leak has not been denied, Alexander. The leak has not been denied.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not denied.
Which means it's true. You are more bothered about the leak, but you're not concerned about what has been leaked.
We are going to find out who that sore loser who is not
that's a threat, but
America trying to obliterating the nuclear program of Iran. Let me tell you this. If Iran try to develop more, we are going to hit them back again. There is no doubt about it. If President Trump is in the White House, if he is in the Oval Office, I dare Iran to try.
Who stopped you from obliterating the threat this time? Why put it for later?
No, listen. That's why Democrats in the United States are so unhappy. They are so sad that there was no casualties. They wanted casualties on the U.S. side. They wanted the military people to die. That's what the left wanted.
I'll get Ajay to respond to you. I'm sorry, but this is, I am not that interested in domestic American politics. I mean, you have your politics, we have our politics.
We need to talk that. There is no
we are only saying, what Trump is saying, you're being disrespectful to the B-2 bomber pilots. No, nobody is being. The fact is the B-2 bombers hit the targets. Nobody is saying it. It is undisputed. However, the American military must come out.
Let me finish.
Alexander, you guys are so. You guys are becoming so aggressive. I'm a calm guy. I'm just saying.
You are, but you get aggressive too sometimes. We say there is nothing between us. Okay, when we are calm, there is no enmity between us. But
no, there's no enmity.
You tell me don't get work, but I do. when I hear lies from the other side, when I hear lies from the left, when I hear
But
lies
Einar
from
is
the
not
Democrats,
left.
yes.
Einar is sitting somewhere in Beijing. Yeah, maybe he's left there.
The way he talks, listen, when I talk, you know, how do you know that I am a hardcore Trump supporter? Because the way I talk. When I listen to Einar, I know he's a radical left person. I know he's a radical left Democrat. There is no doubt about it. Or he's a supporter of the anti-American communist agenda. I know that for sure. I don't have to talk to him. I don't need to do a research. The moment that he opened his mouth, I know he's an anti-American.
Why am I the subject? Can't we talk about the issues?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You have to let me talk.
No, 1 minute.
Can I with your initial analysis on Trump's...
If Arnab lets me talk, I will...
No, I'll let you talk, but I just want to bring in, because you said so much. See, I get in Ajay here. Let me get in Ajay from California. See, Ajay, the moot issue, the country... See, you Americans may want to know one thing. What does the world want to know? What does Israel wants to know? Israel wants to know, is the nuclear threat still there? Israel wants to know, is the nuclear threat still there? And Pentagon must tell us officially. Pentagon is answerable to the world. Is the threat there or not there? Ajay, you've been quiet.
Absolutely. Arnab, I agree with your initial analysis that in March 2025, Tulsi Gabbard testified that there's no nuclear threat right now from Iran. Iran is not progressing on that. But yet this fascist Trump jumped the gun, igniting chaos in the Israel-Iran war. He trashed Iran nuclear deal in 2018 without any future plans. His erratic threats and hollow talks failed to stop both Israel and Iran from retaliation with missiles in June 2025. Trump's military obsession tanked diplomacy. And yesterday, he disgustingly compared his failed B-2 bombings to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, despite Gabbard's intelligence showing that partial damage and Iran claiming they moved their uranium. He could not control Israel. He ignored Saudi Arabia and UAE mediation and alienated Europe, completely isolating US on this whole incident and many other which he has been part of. His party is divided, and his strong supporter like Tucker Carlson has been against him on this whole Iran-Israel war and how he has handled it. And with Congress completely resisting, while China and Russia are backing Iran and mocking Trump's strategy. His fascist rhetoric and intelligence contradiction and diplomatic flops have dangerously inflamed this crisis. And the Pentagon definitely needs to clearly answer the Americans as well as to the world that how the B-2 bombing has impacted the Iran's nuclear program and what is the program, where is it headed. And there's no clear answer right now because they don't speak truth. They try to hide, and he's just trying to find short-term wins in order to his failed economic policies.
I want to ask, I want to ask Pastor Mark Burns. Pastor Mark Burns, you say you are political as much as you're spiritual. Fantastic. In that case, let me ask you on facts. You see, the Fordo facility is buried some 250 to 300 feet under a mountain, which means that to destroy the Fordo facility, to destroy it, not hurt it, military experts believe it would take multiple waves of airstrikes within days or multiple weeks where you keep hitting the same spot. Which means that US bombers, of course, hit the target at least twice. There is no disputing that fact. The B-2 dropped 12 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bombs, which are often referred to as bunker busters. And as per satellite imagery, right, 6 above-ground craters are visible as examined by the experts. But now you ask them, is there obliteration? Nobody says one day of strikes will end the job. So why did you stop? Why didn't you complete the job? Is the question the world wants to know. Please, Pastor, if you can respond to that.
Sure. And thank you for allowing me to speak. So let me just say this, but regarding the leak, I'm just getting messages from the White House as we speak. And they're telling me that concerning this leak, the White House will be responding at 2 p.m. today. Caroline Lovett will be addressing this matter. And so that's something, and I agree with my Republican colleague. It's weak, low level, low life Democrat holdovers. Having said that, every report that we are receiving, even the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission themselves, came out with a statement recently and stated that there's been massive, significant damage. They themselves used the word obliteration. And they said that this attack has been extremely successful and has has achieved the goal that we set out to be, which was to destroy Iran's ability to make nuclear weapons. Now, the Iranians has already come out and said that they're not going to stop. But I think that this is bringing them to the table. A matter of fact, Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that Iran's willingness to come to the table, and that they would not be willing to come back to the table had not the damage been done that President Trump has happened, and the intelligence community around President Trump has stated. So we're going
have they come to the table? Can you give me any concrete evidence of the fact that they have come to the table apart from your claim?
Well, I can only repeat what the Secretary of State is stating. The Secretary of State himself stated, and they are in direct communication.
But they moved away from the IAEA. They walked out of the IAEA. Ajay wants to counter you. I'll allow a counter. 1 minute. Sir. Ajay wants to counter you.
So Arnab, Iran was on the table. There was an agreement done by President Obama with JCPO and bringing all the allies, including Russia and other. And that program had slowed down Iran's nuclear program, and it has economic sanction, cutting down the economy from 120 billion to 50 billion, and the percentage of uranium.
We are on a point here tonight. I go across because I have limited time to Dr. Khan. Dr. Khan, has Iran come to the table or showing any signs of coming to the table?
During the attacks, Steve Witkoff spoke 4 times with Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian ambassador, 4 times using WhatsApp. So they have been in touch. I think the fact that the United States has bombed only once, and the fact that the U.S. bases all around Iran are less protected than Israel itself. And the fact that Iran's missiles are able to penetrate even the Iron Dome makes U.S. military very vulnerable to
but the other thing is that if America does half
that is why that is why he's stopping this whole. That's why only
but you
one
see,
round
I'm asking what is Israel's situation in this, Dr. Benjamin?
How do we assess that?
They are going to come back because they need to get IAEA to go in and verify whether there is any damage.
Mr. Alexander.
I said without further deep investigation, how do we assess the amount or the measure of the damage? That's why they said more details needs to come out. Based on the briefing from the Defense Department, the same day the bombing was happened or the strike was happened, President Trump, Marco Rubio, Vice President Vance, and Pete Hegseth, they came together and they made the statement to the nation.
But we have no evidence. We have only claims. Well, it is for one side to give the evidence. You don't expect Iran to give the evidence. I think it is America which must provide the evidence. And if not, provide the evidence for the people of Israel, who's really suffered in this. The affected party are the people of Israel. And I almost must say, Mr. Benjamin, I know that Netanyahu and Trump get along very well, but it's very disrespectful of the way he's been talking. The language he used, the 4-letter word used to talk down to the Israelis yesterday. You saw that, I'm sure. Do Israelis appreciate that? Israelis are a proud people. No, you can't say, I don't know what the dash they are doing. That's not the way you talk to the Israelis. I'll ask Benjamin. Nobody likes it, sir.
Actually, I can understand.
You speak like that to any other country. You dare speak like that to the Indians, we'll give it back.
I don't agree. I don't agree cuss words. But
how does he talk like that?
He did not say that to Israel.
First of all, we must respect the president, and we must respect the prime minister and everybody. That's the first thing. Second thing is when he talks to the media, he is always in such a hurry that sometimes he made some kind of mistakes, and that's what he made, I think, yesterday. He spoke very badly to the president, to the prime minister. I am really feeling insulted.
Yes.
But with all this, we can't open our mouths because we are still getting from America a lot of support, and
Yes.
American
I
people are with us.
understand
I can tell you one thing only. We are waiting for the table to come, and they will sit on the table. And of course, we will not be there for the negotiation. And I'm sorry that we are not there, because we have some points that we will not agree to it. And even if there is a problem that we must go and fight once again.
Yeah,
we are Independence Day, and we are not able to only protect ourselves and nobody else.
Yeah. Einar, you have something to say to Pastor Mark Burns at the end? You both have not got along very well on this debate.
No, I don't question it. I wasn't questioning his abilities as a pastor. He's quite a talker. My point was, and I said, you seem to be talking more about politics than being a pastor. You're speaking for the the powerful, not the people who need a voice for them, which are the people who are suffering. He didn't mention anything about Gaza and the women and children being killed there. He certainly isn't mentioning anything about the casualties that were brought about by this on either Israel or Iran. He's talking about policy. And to me, that speaks more about politics. But I would agree with him in this respect, that the Iranians, by not trying to escalate, can you keep your mouth shut for 1 second? The Iranians, by not trying to escalate, by attacking targets without...
I think we should not, none of us should be disrespectful. Pastor Mark Burns.
You shut your mouth, please.
Now we should not use language like Trump uses. We should not learn from Trump.
I'm sorry. He's talking.
I'm trying to talk.
I would not.
You insist that you should have the right to talk, but you don't want anyone else to. Is that the way?
I agree with you. That is not the way to speak.
What about the pregnant women killed in Israel? Talk about that. Why you are just worried about Gaza?
That's true.
You know everything already. You know all about me.
That's absolutely true. I think Israel has suffered many casualties.
Make me the issue instead of actually talking.
I think we started with I think also, Pastor Mark Burns, you should speak about Trump praising the vaporizing of human beings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You say you're a pastor? You'd go with that? You're happy about it?
So let me say this.
Yes.
In regards to the gentleman that was stating, listen, I don't know his spiritual walk, whether he has one or not. So I'm not here to question it. I don't even know him. I can't even see him. And so I want to respect him. But I can simply say this. If you read the Bible, you will discover that God have used prophets of old all the time to speak to the heads of nations. And that's where the prophet Samuel come from, who even chose the first king and second king of Israel. We know throughout the Bible, God have using men of God to speak to the heads of the station. So now, having said that,
there's always been a connection between spirituality and politics. Acknowledge that, but I think because I'm
let me get to the response regarding to the obliteration of Nagasaki. The president was not praising the death of people. And remember why the bomb was dropped. The bomb was dropped because Japan, a fierce nation, a strong nation.
I think the Japanese would be very angry by using that example.
The Japanese.
I have to close. Pastor, with a lot of respect, only for want of time, I've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed this only for want of time, not because I want to shut you down at all. Thank you all for coming tonight. This is an ongoing, developing story. We'll track it tomorrow as well. Let's see what Trump says in a bit.
Thank you.
Good night and goodbye.
For a quick breather, Arnab will be right back with the debate.
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDA चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDA चटनी पुदीना मसाला।